Few royal pictures have traveled the world more quickly than the one taken on the second Sunday of Wimbledon 2024. Catherine, Princess of Wales, leaning towards her daughter in the royal box, had just close enough for a whispered remark, both of them laughing at the same instant. To the casual viewer it looked like the very definition of an uncomplicated summer outing, mother and child sharing strawberries, applauding a blistering forehand winner, absorbing an atmosphere that blends English garden party with gladiatorial arena. Yet within Kensington Palace the moment was recognized as something far weightier, the culmination of an anxious private promise, the first decisive step in Princess Charlotte's slow but deliberate introduction to public life, and a quiet demonstration that the future Queen Consort would not let serious illness dictate every line of the family diary. The pledge itself was made many months earlier, long before doctors uttered the word cancer in hushed voices, and a program of exhausting treatment emptied Catherine's calendar. According to friends, Charlotte had asked whether she might one day sit beside her mother to watch a Wimbledon final, no press, no grand ceremonial duty, just the two of them sharing a passion for tennis that runs deep in the Middleton family. Catherine had said yes without hesitation. It was the sort of promise mothers make lightly, confident there will be ample time to turn good intentions into lived experience. Then, in the space of a few winter weeks, everything altered. Chemotherapy began. Kensington's staff, who had once scheduled 3 engagements a day, was suddenly instructed to ring-fence whole fortnights for rest. The princess's hairdresser, dresser and protection officers moved to a new rhythm dictated by hospital appointments and unpredictable waves of fatigue. In the quiet moments between medical consultations, Catherine found herself replaying small family conversations, including her casual vow to Charlotte. Guilt, say aides, became an uninvited companion. She worried that her daughter might believe illness had swept aside every bright plan, and that childhood memories of this period would be colored only by the sight of anxious adults speaking in code outside clinic doors. When the All England Club invitation for 2024 arrived, palace officials assumed Catherine would decline. She surprised them. "We will go," she told a senior private secretary, stipulating only that preparations must guarantee the child's comfort and keep medical contingencies invisible. A miniature operation swung into place. Physicians approved a strict 4-hour window from departure to return. A consultant oncologist supplied medication to travel in the convoy. A discreet resting suite was reserved within Centre Court's private corridors. Dressmakers altered Catherine's green creepback satin coat, sewing in panels of moisture-wicking silk so that any sudden heat surges brought on by treatment would pass unnoticed. On the day itself, Catherine rose early, long before the photographers took their positions. She read Charlotte the order of play, rehearsed the pronunciation of both finalists' surnames, and practiced the small curtsy that would be required when greeting senior club officials. Observers often forget that royal children acquire these ritual skills gradually. A misunderstood protocol in the royal box can live forever on social media. William watched from the doorway, giving his wife a glance that conveyed both pride and the mild apprehension felt by any parent sending a child into a high-stakes public arena. The procession across the grounds was brisk, cameras whirring, lenses hunting for the slightest sign of frailty. They found none. Catherine, a longtime patron of the All England Club, slipped back into familiar hostess mode, introducing Charlotte to ball boys and ball girls, pointing out the hawk that patrols pigeons before play, explaining why the Wimbledon grass is cut to precisely 8 millimeters. Princess Charlotte, eager and wide-eyed, absorbed every scrap of detail, repeating facts back to her mother in a stage whisper. What television viewers did not see were the minute precautions. A Kensington Palace doctor seated 2 rows behind, shielding a medical bag beneath a program. Security officers who, on this occasion, carried a lightweight wheelchair folded behind the last row of chairs. A senior lady-in-waiting stationed at a private doorway with a change of clothes in case of spills, faintness, or a sudden turn in the weather. All of it was designed to be unnecessary. All of it had been rehearsed nonetheless. Centre court afternoons have their own choreography. Royal box guests rise for players' entrances, sit for the coin toss, lean forward during long rallies, murmur appreciatively at deft volleys. Catherine matched the rhythm effortlessly. Charlotte mirrored her, learning instinctively. During a changeover, Catherine bent close and murmured a joke that made her daughter grin. The cameras caught the smile, but not the words. Those seated nearby report it was something poignantly ordinary, about popcorn, and whether Charlotte could spot friends from school among the ball kids. By the third set, the princess's energy reserves were undeniably thinning. Photographers noticed her shoulders drop fractionally between points. A clinician in the entourage noted a slight tremor in her right hand. Yet each time the crowd erupted, she straightened, applauded, and turned first to Charlotte, then to her neighbor, Sir David Beckham, to exchange a remark. Body language specialists later pored over footage, noting how Charlotte continued to glance at her mother for cues, tucking hair behind an ear when Catherine did, shifting her knees at the same angle. It was adorable, but it was also a fragile interdependence, the child's equilibrium rising and falling in step with her mother's stamina. The match ended, trophies were presented, and the royal party began the carefully timed exit. Aides shepherded mother and daughter through subterranean passages, where cool air and dim light offered immediate relief. In the armored SUV waiting beyond the gates, Catherine removed her court shoes and closed her eyes. Charlotte held her hand wordlessly for the entire drive back to London. At Kensington Palace, the princess greeted Prince Louis, mustered a tired smile for waiting staff, then left William to supervise bedtime, while she slept for 12 straight hours. Publicly, the excursion was hailed as a triumph, the future queen's graceful re-emergence, proof that treatment had not eroded her public poise. Privately, Catherine allowed herself a different verdict: promise kept, guilt eased, memory created. She recorded the experience in a personal journal, noting with satisfaction that Charlotte had not faltered once, had in fact enjoyed herself so thoroughly that she forgot, for an afternoon, the medical undertow that had defined the household for months. Within palace strategy meetings, the outing is now studied as a template. The objective was never to pretend Catherine had made a full recovery. It was to show her children, and by extension the nation, that joy and sickness can coexist, and that royal duty can still include moments of unmistakable humanity. The next steps will be measured just as carefully. Short balcony appearances, limited duration patronage visits, perhaps a christening or regimental parade where Catherine can arrive late, leave early, and nonetheless remind observers that the monarchy's emotional center remains intact. As for Charlotte, the girl who once recited players' names at breakfast and wondered if she would ever sit in Wimbledon's high green chairs, she now carries a souvenir program signed in discreet ink by both finalists. It rests on a shelf beside a school art project and a photograph of her shaking hands with a former champion, evidence that even in a chapter shadowed by illness, her mother found a way to make ordinary promises come true. The broader Windsor narrative, succession debates, uneasy truces with exiled relatives, Camilla's balancing act, Anne's quiet vigilance, will continue to unfold in grand parliamentary chambers and private drawing rooms. But sometimes the real future of the crown is forged in smaller arenas. The hush between points on centre court, the squeeze of a little girl's hand in a convoy car, the decision of a tired princess to risk exhaustion, because a child's faith matters more than her own comfort. Critics may argue that such gestures prove nothing, that a hereditary institution cannot be redeemed by a photogenic afternoon. Yet history suggests otherwise. The Windsors have survived abdication crises, wars, divorces and scandals less because of constitutional mechanics than because, every so often, they offer the public a window onto genuine human resilience. Catherine's Wimbledon outing was precisely such a window, and Princess Charlotte, wide-eyed, trusting, radiant, was the reflection that shone back. Whether this chapter becomes a footnote or a foundational stone in the next reign remains to be seen. For now it stands as living proof that a monarchy defined by ceremony can still capture hearts through something as modest and as monumental as a mother keeping her word.